Breakfast with Bob.
Hey everybody, Bob Babbitt here again, another edition of Breakfast with Bob. We are brought to you by the PTO, the Pro Triathletes Organization, by Amp Human, VeloFix, Normatec, Form Goggles, UCAN, and our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, three-time Ironman World Champion, also 70.3 World Champion, the great Mirinda Carfrae. Rinny, how the heck you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks, Bob.
It's so nice to connect with you. So during this craziness, how has all this been affecting you and TO?
You know, as a professional triathlete, you know, lockdown or self-quarantine and physical distancing is not all that different to our normal lives, other than, you know, we don't get to go to the pool and swim. We don't get to meet up with our group and train. So, you know, life's been ticking along fairly quickly, actually, with a 2-year-old running around. Days go pretty quickly still, and spirits are high. So, you know, that's all positive. And, you know, in terms of training, we've dialed back our training quite a lot. You know, not knowing when our next race will be, we're really just sort of in off-season mode. And, you know, we do have a master spa in the backyard, so we can swim, which is really lucky for us. And also, we're able to get out on the trails and out in the roads here in Boulder as well. So I know a lot of people around the world were unable to leave their houses unless it was, you know, for essentials, groceries,
Right.
Medical. So yeah, we're ticking along and cruising along, and yeah, kind of getting work done around the house, which is kind of nice.
So talk a little bit about the real mothers of triathlon. I love this. It's you and Meredith Kessler, and it's coming up this Saturday, May 9th, and Master Spas involved, and Challenge Athletes Foundation official charity. How'd this all come about?
Yeah, so Meredith actually contacted me back maybe a month ago, and she was pulling her hair out. Meredith loves to train and loves to swim in particular, and she actually bought an inflatable pool for like $100, and then realized that was not going to do. And then she said, "Can you give me the Master Spa contact? I'd love to see, you know, if I could make that work."
Yeah.
So I was, you know, obviously happy to send her my contact over at Master Spa, and so they got her hooked up with a spa. And then from that, she sort of came up with the idea of us doing an event together. It's not so much a race, more just a chance to swim, bike, and run. She'll be, you know, live on a live feed, and I'll be on a live feed, but also engage the whole triathlon community. And since we're both mums, we both have 2-year-olds, we thought it'd be a great idea to do it on Mother's Day weekend. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it all came together. We only really sort of decided we'd do it a week ago now. So it's come together really quickly. And yeah, we're looking forward to, you know, just having a fun Saturday.
So when I saw the distances, and I saw it was like a 2-mile swim and a 58-mile bike and 10-mile run, I'm going, I don't think Rinny came up with the swim distance. Well, talk about the compromise about, I'm sure that you wouldn't have minded a 15-mile run, and I'm sure that Meredith was hoping for a 4-mile swim. So how'd you guys come up with the distances?
You know, Meredith actually came up with the distances. You are correct. But she sort of had a little bit of fun with our, you know, Izzy's 2.5, Max 2. So we thought, well, 2-mile swim. And then we added their birthdays together and got 58 miles for the bike. And then we're like, okay, what are we going to do for the run? Initially, we were like, maybe, you know, 17 miles. They were both born in 2017. And then we're like, oh, that is kind of a longer event than we wanted it to be. So we dialed back the run and made it 10 miles, which is 40 loops of the Zwift course that we're running on. And that will give us 10 miles. So yeah, I'm sorry, we're both 40. Well, I'm not 40 yet, but Meredith's 41, I'm 39. So the average of our age is 40. And that's where we came up with the 10-mile run.
And so people can sign up at tzeroendurance.com, and it's 11 a.m. We're talking West Coast time. It's like swim starts at 11, but there's a pre-show at 10:30. I'm sure we'll talk a little smack and things along that line. Eastern time, yep.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, we'll the show will start at 10:30 Eastern, and we kick off at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So yeah, we honestly we just wanted to have a little bit of fun with it. I won't be going super crazy. Actually, we have that. Both our coaches put together a little bike plan for us, and then a little run plan for us. So we're kind of doing some, it's kind of like a training session and not a race
Right.
per se.
And you just want people to jump in and have some fun with it.
Yeah, they can either join us on the Zwift platform, or they can just, turn us on live and just run on their treadmills or ride on their trainers. They don't have to be connected to any technology. They can just be, riding along, listening, watching, and seeing what we're doing. And that's kind of, we want it to be really all inclusive as much as possible.
Yeah, and Master Spas is matching donations up to $5,000. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so Master Spa will match any donations for the CAF Foundation up to $5,000. So we're hoping to raise a bit of money as well while we have some fun.
So this, just looking the other day, I think your first pro race was 20 years ago, like 2000, right? So this is your 20-year anniversary in this sport. If someone had told you 20 years ago, okay, you're going to become one of the very best in this sport. Here you were before that, a 5'3" basketball player, not going anywhere, getting into this silly sport in 1999 and having success right away. But if someone said 20 years from now, you're going to be one of the greatest triathletes in the history of the sport, you're going to be in the Ironman 3 times, and you're going to be considered probably the best female runner to ever do this sport, you would have said what?
I would have, of course I would not have believed it. First of all, I never even knew what Ironman was. 1999, when I did my first race, I was focused on Olympic distance, and I was, watching the Olympic distance athletes and, totally focused on that. It wasn't until maybe 2002 that I'm like, wait, there's an Ironman distance, and maybe I'd be better at that, when I kind of realized that, I'm not the best swimmer and you really need to be a good swimmer for short course racing. So, I kind of found out about Ironman a couple of years later. So, yeah, certainly would not have believed any of that.
But you did it right, because you think about it, in 2002, when it was Lake Tinaroo, the half Ironman, and you come in second, and you're probably thinking, this longer distance isn't bad. But you didn't jump right in and start doing Ironman stuff until you did your first one in 2009 in Kona, after qualifying in 2007 at 70.3 Worlds. I'm sure you were wanting to go longer because you knew you were better at it. How was it hard not to make that move earlier?
I just tried to learn from the greats, and at that time Natasha Badman was winning, and Natasha Badman was not 22 or 23. Natasha Badman was in her late 30s, I believe, and she was the fastest in the world. And I just started to look at the history and what sort of ages were women hitting their peak for that distance. And I knew I loved the sport, and I knew I wanted to do it for a long time. I didn't know that I'd be doing it for 20 years and still loving it. But I kind of, learnt from them, and that it'd be smart to stay short and then slowly make my way up until I was ready to race. I didn't want to go to Ironman and just complete the distance. I wanted to be ready to race the distance. And actually in 2004, I did the Nice international distance, which was in between a half and an Ironman, just to get a taste of the longer distance racing. And I actually won that race. And that was, for me, that was okay, this is what I'm meant to be doing. But still, I didn't do an Ironman until 2009. So I definitely sort of took my time and made sure I was well and truly ready before I stepped on that start line, Hawaii.
So Rinny, when you came over to Kona for that first time in 2009, a lot of people get off that plane and the heat hits them and they go, oh my God, I'm in for something I wasn't really ready for. When you got there, did you feel comfortable pretty much?
Comfortable? Definitely not. Going to Kona to do my first ever Ironman on the greatest stage, and a race I've been thinking about and planning about for at least 5 years and longer. As we mentioned, 2002, I had in the back of my mind. I was very nervous because I really wanted to have a good first performance. But having said that, getting off the plane in Hawaii, I was training in the US, in California with Siri, and just the climate. I mean, I grew up in Brisbane, Australia. It's humid, it's hot in the summertime. And when I hop off the plane, it's like a warm hug, and that felt like home to me. So I definitely was smiling on the inside and happy to be in that environment. You know, but thinking of the race, I was, you know, really nervous and certainly not confident going in, but I think a little bit of nerves and respect for the island goes a long way.
So when you get second your first time out, did you surprise yourself?
Yes and no. I think that's what I had trained for and what I kind of expected from myself.
Mm-hmm.
But to actually have it happen is another thing. You know, like you can do the training and say, I think I can do this on the big stage. I think this is where I would be. And certainly on the podium was where I thought I could perform. But yeah, to have it happen and come together that well on the day was pretty awesome.
And then you come back the following year, and at that point, Chrissy Wellington has won, and basically, you know, kissing babies and waving to the crowd. 2007, 2008, every year her gap was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. So going to 2010, there was no reason to believe that anybody else was going to win. And on race morning, she's not there, and you're the second place person from the year before. What the heck's going through your mind now?
Yeah, and that was only my second Ironman, because back then, you know, top 10 auto qualified. So
right.
My second Ironman, I was second the year before, and I had spent that whole year. I actually had a great year. I won probably more races than I've ever won before in my career, and things were just going perfectly well. Training was going well. I was focused, and Chrissy was the one I was thinking about every single day in training. And, you know, she was actually training here in Boulder as well. So I'd see her around on the roads and, you know, watch her results throughout the year. And then, yeah, it was kind of like the rug was pulled out from underneath my feet, actually. My husband, Tim, was at the start area when we found out. They just called it out of the loudspeaker. And he said that I looked like I saw a ghost. My face was white. And Siri was going, she'd gone away to quickly go tinkle, go to the toilet. And Shannon, my manager, was like, where's Siri? So she got Siri back, and Siri's like, this changes nothing. You just race your race. And yeah, but still I was like my head was kind of spinning. And I guess the overwhelming feeling was of pressure. Like, okay, you need to win this race now. Like, you've been thinking of, you know, believing that you could beat her all year, and she's the only one, you know, she's the best in the sport as of right now. If you can't go out there and beat and win when she's not on the start line, then you've been kidding yourself the past year. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure, but I had a dream day that day.
And winning that race, coming down a Lee Drive, because you're someone in terms of Australia with Greg Welch and McKeely Jones, and there's so much, Craig Alexander, so much history there, and coming down Lee Drive knowing that you're winning the race. And like you said, there was pressure because you were second the year before, first isn't there, you're supposed to win.
Yeah, I mean, nothing like, you can't put into words the feeling that you have of like satisfaction, of just sheer joy coming down that finish line when you've accomplished a goal. And that goal, I guess, was pretty much 10 years in the making, going back from when I first started thinking about doing Ironman. And to have it happen in my second ever Ironman race, I was just like, this is what I was meant to be doing. Like, this is where I'm meant to be. And it just was validation. And yeah, pretty special moment for sure. Well,
and then the following year, here we have the undefeated Chrissy Wellington and the defending champion, Mirinda Carfrae. So yeah, it's great that Alexander is racing, but really the women's side of it, especially when Chrissy crashes a couple weeks before, and it's like, we're going to have and we did. It was like 2 minutes at the end of the day, but having that race and having her there, and you know, the excitement was around the two best women in the sport are going head to head. One's a defending champion and one's a 3-time champion. How special, just being in that, how special was that? Yeah, you know, that whole next year, yeah, it was kind of a lot of talk going into the race. I'm actually, that's the one that got away for me, that race, because, you know, I won in 2010, I had a great year, and then I maybe celebrated a little bit
too much and a little bit too long in 2011. So you never know if you're ever going to win again. So all of a sudden I had new opportunities. I had more sponsors. I'm trying to learn how to deal with, new appearances and people pulling me in different ways. In 2010, yes, I had some good sponsorship opportunities after coming second in 2009, but after winning a world title, it's a whole different world. And yeah, I just remember I didn't have a perfect plan leading into the race. I didn't have I hadn't sat down and okay, I'm going to do this race, and that's going to have me peaking in October. I was kind of like, oh, they're going to pay me $5,000, so I'm going to go race that little race this weekend, and they're going to pay me an appearance fee, so I'm going to go hang out in wherever this other weekend. And it kind of took away from my training a little bit. And while I did still have a very good race in 2011, I certainly didn't race as well as I should have that year. And I, you think, oh, it's fine, I'll come back and race Chrissy the next year. But of course, that was her last time racing on the Big Island. So yeah, that one I kind of look back and think, oh, if only I'd been more focused. But
you don't know if you're ever going to get that opportunity again. And plus, you're also the type of person, you've had sponsors who've been with you for a while. You wanted to take care of them. You're the Ironman World Champion. If they wanted you for an appearance, they had always been there for you. You wanted to be there for them. And
yeah, there is all of that, absolutely, for sure. But at the end of the day, they are sponsoring you to do one thing, and that's to win. And so it's kind of a give or take, situation. You need to, and I definitely could have planned better and, said no to a few things. But again, as I said, you never know if you're going to win that race again, and you want to take every opportunity that comes your way. So I did. And I still got to win 2 more times so far. So that, is still pretty special.
When Chrissy retires, I'm sure, knowing how competitive you are, you want to win the Ironman, but at that point you hadn't beaten Chrissy on that day on that island. And 2011, she retires after that, so now you're not going to get the chance.
Yeah.
Was it hard to be motivated for 2012? Not any disrespect for any other women in the race, but just you wanted her.
Yeah, 2012 was a weird year. Having Chrissy exit the sport, motivation wasn't as high as it had been the prior 2 years. And then I actually stopped working with Siri Lindley, so I made a few changes, with my team, and I was just kind of trying to work on my bike a little more. So I went to a bike specific coach for a little while, and it was just a kind of okay year. I mean, it just didn't. I don't know. I just wasn't in the zone at all in 2012. I mean, I was doing the work. I was showing up. I was, in good shape when it came to Kona. But and there's another year I look at. Honestly, that 2011 was painful, and then the motivation in 2012 wasn't great. But I think all of those things, all of those experiences enabled me to perform as well as I did in 2013 and 14. So you look at them and you're kind of like, oh, I could have done this, could have done that, but then maybe I wouldn't have had the performance I did in 2013 or 14. So
absolutely, you look at that and go, would I've had the motivation to, especially in 14, to come from 14 minutes down and run my way back to the field if I already had 3 wins, or I would have said, oh, second's good enough today. So talk a little about that. So you get third in 12. And then you come back, and at that point, I get you're totally motivated for 13. Now it's, okay, enough of this. I want my title back.
Yeah, in 2013, I was just super focused. Siri and I started working together in the middle of the year. We have a pretty special relationship. Just being back with her and being just back in the group, everything's just seemed to be flowing again. I was feeling good. I was feeling strong. I was nailing all my sessions. I come into Kona in 13, and I think that's my best ever performance. I had a solid swim. I biked probably the best I've ever biked on the island, still to this day, and then put together my fastest run until the next year. So I'm pretty proud of that performance, and everything that went into it was, the pain of messing up 2012, because I actually dropped my nutrition in 2012 and paid for that. dearly at the later stages of the marathon, and then 2011 not being as focused as I should have been. So yeah, it was pretty special.
So in 2012, Leanda Cave now is coached by Siri Lindley, right? That must have been hard. Not only you don't win the race you want to win, but the person who was coaching you when you did win is coaching this other person. That had to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show how great a coach Siri Lindley is. And I mean, Leanda Cave has won world titles at every single distance. So, yep. I mean, she's a girl that has no weakness, can swim, can bike, can run. So, you know, she was always up there to be one of the favorites. And then, you know, she started working with Siri, and Siri is just kind of I don't know, she's just very good at preparing athletes to be ready on the one day that counts. Yes. And I don't know that there's many coaches that can do that, and she definitely can. I think you can look at, you know, her track record throughout her coaching career, back to Susan Williams winning bronze.
Bronze medal, the only American up until Gwen. Yep.
Yeah. In Athens, and she was kind of a nobody. So yeah, I think Siri's track record speaks for itself. And you know, I knew Leanda would be. Leanda won the 70.3 world title only 4 weeks earlier, so I knew she was in good form. Yeah, I mean, it was just tough not to win when I feel like I should have won. I feel like I had what I needed to win on that day, and Leanda had a better race than I did.
So 2013 you feel is your best race. I look at 2014 because of where you were off the bike and the fact that you ran your fastest marathon 2:50:26 because you had to, right? You needed all of that to catch Danielle Lariffe, who would go on. You won the title there 4 times. Were there points during that run where you wondered if you would be able to catch her at all?
100%. Getting off the bike, I was very doubtful. I mean, I knew Daniela from her ITU days, and she was a very strong athlete and a good runner. But yeah, I hopped off the bike. I think it was in 8th place, and I felt embarrassed to be that far behind a rookie coming off the bike, and as the defending world champion. And I started the run, and I was just like, what's the point of even racing? I'm so far behind. But then I, kind of had to talk to myself, slap myself around a little bit, got a mile into the run, and I was like, okay, well, I know I've looked after myself. The girls ahead of me must have biked very hard to be that far ahead of me. I've looked after myself. I've eaten well. I've hydrated well. I know I can done the training. And so from then on, I just focused on, okay, well, my goal is to be in the top 5. And then once I was in the top 5, top 3, and then, moving up to 2nd place. And then once I was in 2nd place, Daniela was sort of within reach, and she became my number 1 focus. And yeah, I kind of broke the race down that way, and yeah, was able to get to the lead a few, maybe 2 or 3 miles from the finish line, and that was pretty cool.
That was really pretty cool. And then last year, being able to watch T.O. come in 2nd.
Yeah,
that has to be. I mean, it's great, obviously, to do it yourself, but watching your husband having the race of his life and just so gutsy all day long, and watching him, coming in 2nd on the biggest stage, how special was that?
It was so cool. I mean, our whole lives have kind of been intertwined with Ironman. The first time I raced in Kona was when we started dating, and he came out and watched in 2009, and then in 10 he came and watched again, and then he's like, I want to do this too. 11 he raced, and then 13 we got married. We were engaged, and when I got 1st and he got 5th, I think, in the pro men's race.
Yep. And
so our whole lives are so intertwined with Ironman, and particularly in Kona. So many special moments together there. And yeah, then to be able to be there for him at the finish line when he just nailed it. He was so strong all day long, and he had a rough year, he broke his foot, and was just 8 weeks out from Kona, didn't know if he was even going to be able to race. And it was a rough couple of months, and I broke my arm 5 weeks out. So it was a rough couple of months leading in, but to see him come across that line in 2nd place and have such a amazing performance was really nice to witness.
Love it. So, Rinny, again, we have the Real Mothers of Triathlon with yourself and Meredith Kessler coming up this Saturday. It's May 9th. People can register at t0endurance.com. It's free, right?
Yes.
Totally free, but you can make donations to CAF, and Master Spa's matching all the donations up to $5,000. It's a 2-mile swim. Again, everything is going to start at 10:30 Eastern time. So 2-mile swim, 58-mile bike, 10-mile run. That's a big workout right now, right? That's a long way to go.
Seriously, I hope I make it. Meredith's going to be in fantastic shape. I don't think she ever gets out of shape. She kind of races all year round. But yeah, I mean, we've made the cycling and the running, hard enough that we'll get a workout. And
yes,
I mean, I'm going to get a workout regardless. But we'll be able to talk and communicate with the host of the show, Rob Feynman, and also with guests that call in. So yeah, it's going to be a fun day.
The other thing that's happened this year, just launched, and TO is very involved, and I think you are as well, is the Pro Triathletes organization, which is, I think, well overdue. It's something that the pros have always been sort of independent agents and doing their own thing. And talk a little bit about what your thoughts are on the PTO and why it's so important for you, for the pros, and for the sport.
Yeah, I mean, I think a bunch of athletes got together maybe 5 or 6 years ago and were like, we need to do something. We need a collective voice. We're all individuals. And it's very hard to get professional triathletes to come together and work together. And we kind of sort of came together and formed the PTU. But that kind of didn't really work that well. And then a guy by the name of Charles Adamo, he actually got to know Lucy Gossage, who I believe is a doctor, and also multiple Ironman champion, and found out how little she was making in the sport.
It's always surprising to people.
He was disgusted, and he was just like, something has to be done. And that was probably 4 or 5 years ago. And then Tim and I got to know Charles, and he has been a driving force behind this PTO and just getting the athletes organized. He's a businessman, but he is totally doing this all voluntarily. He's flown all over the world the last 5 years, meeting all the most important people in the sport to try and get this PTO organization off the ground. We received funding last year, and yeah, I mean, it's tough because obviously the flagship event was supposed to be the Collins Cup in May, which was supposed to be coming up in a couple of weeks, and obviously in the current environment that had to be cancelled. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to have the championship in Daytona at the end of the year. Massive prize purse, but also I think the main thing that has been really great that PTO came around in this time is the world rankings, and being able to pay out the world rankings early this year so that there are a bunch of athletes. The top 10, top 20 athletes are going to be fine in this time because they don't necessarily rely on prize money, but athletes 25 to 100, they're paycheck to paycheck like we did when we first started. And for them to be able to cut checks for $5,000, $3,000, get, enabling athletes to continue to pursue the dream. And I think that has been really great. And, I really hope it continues its momentum through the end of this year and into next year. And I'm really excited. I think it's an exciting time to be involved in the sport of triathlon.
A 20-year veteran.
Yeah. I know, it's weird.
It is weird. I remember when you were Craig Alexander saying, "Hey, I was going to interview Craig in Chicago," and he's like, "Hey, is it okay if I bring this friend of mine?
Yeah.
She's pretty good."
Yeah.
Mirinda Carfrae. We did a Q&A in Chicago back in before you came to Kona. That was probably like 07, 08, something like that. And
yeah, might have been before that. I remember that. That was when Crow was here, and we traveled a bunch to different races together. And he's such a good man. He sort of took me under his wing the first few years when I was trying to figure out Ironman, and just a all around great guy.
Mirinda, thank you again for doing this. I love the idea of Real Mothers of Triathlon. I love obviously the fact that it's a fundraiser for CAF, but more importantly, I think it's great to try to make opportunities out of tough times. And this isn't a competitive thing. It's just come on out, have some fun, bring your friends, and get a bunch of moms together and a bunch of dads and whoever the heck wants to come out and race. I appreciate a race and just do the distance, right?
Yeah, do the distance or do part of the distance, but yeah, come in all inclusive and
Love it.
Fun, enjoy it.
T0endurance.com is where you go to sign up. Mirinda Carfrae has been our guest. Mirinda, you are the best. Thank you so much for taking time.
No worries, Bob. Thank you.
All right. Mirinda Carfrae has been our guest again. We're brought to you by the Professional Triathletes Organization, by Amp Human, by VeloFix, Normatec, Form Swimming Goggles, You Can, our Challenged Athletes Foundation. We'll check everybody later. Thanks so much for tuning in. See ya.